U.S. jobless claims rise as non-farm payrolls adds a large chunk of jobs. Guess which one gets covered all over Twitter and all over the mainstream media? So we'll talk a little bit extended on finance throughout the day. In other news, GMP Senate hopeful Kathy Barnett reveals that she is a product of rape. In a stunning admission, we'll talk just a bit about what happened with that and where that goes. Jen Psaki, red-haired bobblehead, officially leaves the government as her replacement is announced, and it appears that it's going to be another first this and first that. I know my mom is going to be thrilled when she finds out about that. And Tulsi Gabbard once again comes back and slams Biden for calling MAGA terrorist. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. Wow, I can talk already this morning. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a packed Friday show today. A lot of stuff happened within the last 24 hours. I mean, we were down to 3 tabs when we left yesterday, and we are back up to 40. So we're going to get through as much of it as we can. There is a lot. I think we're probably going to wind up stopping on the Tulsi Gabbard story, but I'd like to see more. But, of course, do remember that today is live chat day, so there's going to be a significant chunk of the show towards the end set aside for you, the viewer. Yes, you. As I take some time, I wrote down the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat throughout the week here, so I can say thank you to people like KTZed and Ron Helton, and even Tom Beerus. I can say thank you to everybody here, because all your names are here. And I can say, you know what? You're cool, you're cool, you're cool, you're cool. And yeah, even though you came in and insulted all the people here and had to get muted temporarily, you still watched a commercial on the Twitch side, so you're cool too. All of your names are here, and we will also be going through some of the live chat today, so do your worst. Get your best comments in throughout the day today, because if it is sufficiently spicy, bigoted, hateful, stupid, or anti-woman for that matter, I mean, it's going to raise the intellectual level of this program, and, I mean, unless it's clear, obvious Susan bait, it'll get read on the air. I got to add that in there, because I have seen a few in the past few weeks that, you know, I looked at that and I'm like, yeah, that's Susan bait. We can't do that one. I appreciate the sentiment. I think it's funny. But that's Susan bait, and we are still streaming out to YouTube right now. So let's get into it. Let's get started. We got to go right down the road. We got to excuse me. I got to stop coughing in your ear. I don't think that I'll have to stop and blow my nose at some point throughout this program here, but I can definitely feel it in my throat. I have been sneezing all morning, and now my throat is raw. So we might have to stop a little bit, then let me clear my throat or cough a little bit, but let's power into it. Let's get started. But before we do, whoops, wrong scene. head on over and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. Turnsofpagesproductions.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We also have the domain tsp-prod.com, so go and check that out. It's going to be a great time once we get up and launch. We are going to be carrying great shows such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the Aria Conservative, and the Porch Boys. Also, my programming. Also, KTZed programming, also Brit Salt programming, and a new program that will be coming. It's a regular weekly program many of you already watch. Coming with us at launch from some great people that we very much enjoy on this channel. So let's go and check that out. It's going to be a great time. And if you want to help us get launched, you can go check out the Give, Send, Go. That is our goal, is to both give you news and culture from the common man for the common man, from the people who have had to make some of the same decisions as you have, and also make sure that our wonderful Bobby Joe gets paid. We like Bobby Joe around here. We hope that she has a lucrative career, and some of that includes helping us get this website launched. So go and check that out, turnsofpagesproductions.com and givesendgo.com/turnsofpages101 to help us get started. Let's get into the finance for the morning here, because I think that's going to be the actual key into what we're looking at here. And as much as we got the wall-to-wall look at how much the Dow was up yesterday, because it was up. It jumped right at the very end for the last couple days. We had an up, but, one day it was up 900 points from a sink like this, and then the next day it was just kind of a whipsaw, and then all the way back up to a full 62 points up. Well, we dropped 1,000 points yesterday, back down into the 32,000 range, not quite to a record low yet, but to 32,997.97 points. That is down 1,063.09 points, or 3.12% loss throughout the day yesterday. And there are a lot of factors weighing on this, and they're trying. They're trying very well to get you to go buy the dip. Buy the dip, they say. Which sounds a lot to me like a, please buy the dip, we can't let the Dow go down because that's going to be the retirements of the people that we want to give away money to. So, you're going to see a lot of that as we go here, but a 1,000-point drop throughout the day over day yesterday, that's something to sit back and watch. Looking in at your Bitcoin, stretch out to 5 days, that, well, if you were holding Bitcoin, I'm sorry. That's what I have to say to that. If you were holding Bitcoin throughout the day yesterday, I am sorry. Hopefully there is some on the buy the dip as well, but your Bitcoin dumped out to $35,685 and 20 US cents per coin. Over the 5 day, that's down about 7.24%, but over the 1 day, we're sitting at the peak of just about 40,000, and now we're 35,600. So $3,400 gone out of your Bitcoin per coin. And if you've got several coins, if you've got several coins at that price, I want to be your friend. Let's just be realistic here. But if you have several coins, you took a hard dump off of that. So that's what we see coming off of that. Looking in at the gas. Well, the 360s are gone. They haven't poked up over the 380s yet in the Madison area, but they definitely have down here. Holy shit. I haven't looked to see if anything is over 4. I've been afraid to go that way to work. I usually go that way to work, because I know I'm going to have to go by the gas station in town, and I know it's going to say 412. I know it's going to say that. I don't even have to look, and knowing what they're doing down in Janesville, I know it's going to say 412 over there. But the low price leader in the Madison area is the Race in Sun Prairie at $3.75. Otherwise, the high price is the Citgo in Portage at $3.79, but also the Costco in Middleton, the Fleet Farm in DeForest, the BP in Portage, the Mobile in Sun Prairie. Lots of 379s, and we were looking last week and we saw 369 is the high price, and the week before that, when we started doing this again, 359 was the high price in the Madison area. In fact, I was happy to see 370s here, and now those days are gone, so that's going to affect what's going to happen here too. Let's see what IWD has to say. Dow futures fall ahead of key April jobs report. Square jumps on earnings from Scott Letonin. Dow futures slumped Friday morning as tech stocks lean towards further losses. In the heels of a tough session Thursday, investors look towards the Labor Department's April payrolls report due before the open, which I've actually got a screenshot from CNBC up on this. We're going to do, I said at the top, a few more finance articles here just because I think that is going to be what's driving and what they're trying to hide with the abortion thing. Block and Vertex were earnings movers on Friday morning. Square parent Block, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, and World Wrestling Entertainment reported their quarterly results late on Thursday. Block stock jumped 5%, Vertex slid more than 2%, and WWE held flat in morning trade, just below a flat basis 63.81 entry. Electric vehicle giant Tesla edged up 0.5% on Friday morning. Dow leader Apple lost a fraction, and Microsoft traded down 0.4% in today's stock market. Amid a worsening stock market correction, Dow leader Merck, along with Cheniere Energy, Exxon, Nutrien, and WWE, were among IBD's top stocks to watch for Friday. Cheniere Energy, Microsoft, Nutrien, and Tesla are IBD leaderboard stocks. Exxon and Merck were featured in this week's Stocks Near a Buy Zone column. Ahead of the Friday open, the Dow moved down 0.3% versus fair value, the S&P lost 0.4%, and the Nasdaq declined 0.5%. All were off early lows. Among ETFs, the Nasdaq Invesco QQQ Trust parted losses to 0.4%, rather, not 2.4%. The SPDR S&P 500 ETF slipped 0.4%. The 10-year Treasury yield ticked higher to 3.08% on Friday morning. Yes, by the way, the 10-year yield is over 3%. With a shrinking GDP and your money printing coming back to catch up with you. On Thursday, the 10-year Treasury yield surged above 3%, closing at 3.07%, its highest level since November of 2018. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices gained almost 2%. West Texas Intermediate traded just above $1.10 a barrel. The April jobs report, due out Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, is expected to show that non-farm grew 400,000 per econo day estimates. The unemployment rate is expected to hold steady at 3.6%. And looking in it from Timcast here, before we get into the rest of this here, we see that it was actually 428,000 non-farm payrolls that are added and a 3.6% unemployment rate. We are going to talk about this, because this is not the good news that they're trying to make this. Now, uncoupled from everything else we've seen, this is really good news. But this is not the good news that they're trying to come back and make happen out of this. So that's what we see coming off IBD. Let's grab one from CNBC. Dow tumbles 1,000 points for the worst day since 2020. Nasdaq drops 5%. From Jesse Pound and Tanaya Makil. Stocks pulled back sharply on Thursday, completely erasing a rally from the prior session in a stunning reversal that delivered investors one of the worst days since 2020. The Dow lost 1,063 points, or 3.12%, to close at 32,997.97. The tech-heavy Nasdaq fell 4.99% to finish at 12,317.69. Its lowest closing level since November of 2020. Both of those losses were the worst single-day drop since 2020. The S&P fell 3.56% to 4146.87, marking its second worst day of the year. The move comes after a major rally for stocks on Wednesday when the Dow surged 932 points, or 2.81%, and the S&P gained 2.99% for their biggest gain since 2020. The Nasdaq jumped 3.19%. Those gains had all been erased before noon in New York on Thursday. If you go up 3%, but then you give up 0.5% the next day, that's pretty normal stuff. But having the kind of day that we had yesterday, and then seeing it 100% reversed within a half day is just truly extraordinary, said Randy Frederick, Managing Director of Trading and Derivatives at the Schwab Center for Financial Research. Large tech stocks were under pressure, with Facebook parent Meta Platforms and Amazon falling nearly 6.8% and 7.6% respectively. Microsoft dropped about 4.4%, Salesforce tumbled 7.1%, and Apple sank close to 5.6%. E-commerce were a key of weakness on Thursday following some disappointing quarterly results. Etsy and eBay dropped 16.8% and 11.7% respectively. After issuing a weaker than expected revenue guidance, Shopify fell nearly 15% after missing estimates on top and bottom lines. The declines dragged Nasdaq to its worst day in nearly 2 years. This is all important because this reflects what people like you and I are doing. Yes, we can go talk about all the stock that's getting traded into Apple and Microsoft, but let's be fair. With the exception of Twitter, which is in 4% range, I mean, what's an Apple stock cost right now? Apple stock price. $156.77 for your average man, for your average person. That's actually a thought. Like, okay, can I go and just go out and buy one of these? Or is that money better spent somewhere else? And never mind going out and buying 1,000 at a time, 10,000 at a time, enough where you can actually make something happen with it. Like if you wanted to go get a stock in Twitter, that's, well, you can't even. I don't know if you can right now or not, actually. While they're in the middle of the deal that goes off and gets rid of, that sells that to Elon Musk. I don't know if you can still buy and sell and trade that right now. But we'll use that as an example because that was in the headlines. We know that is. For $50, you've got a stock in Twitter. Whereas with Apple, it's $156. What's Google's stock price? Because that's usually in the thousands. Yeah, 23, 30, 11. If you wanted to buy a share of Alphabet right now. So these are stocks that you and I aren't usually trading. But Etsy and eBay, are you going out and buying stuff? Do you have expendable income where you can go out and drop some money into Etsy and eBay? That's the question. And Shopify the same, because their earnings aren't getting there. They're not getting the customers to come in and buy through them because their customers don't have disposable income to go back and buy your nice decoration that you're going to put on the wall, or that weird thing that somebody is trying to sell out of their home because what's eBay? The world's largest garage sale. You're buying food and diapers and stuff like that. So those are the numbers to watch off of that. And yeah, we can sit back and talk about who's buying and selling off the stock for the big name companies because it's in either your 401k or your IRA or the hedge fund that your company happens to hold. But disposable income, that's going to be the thing to watch. This part right here. So that's what we see coming out of that. All right, let's look in just a little bit at this. And while we're talking about this, I'm going to talk about what happened yesterday with the stock market versus what happened for the last 2 days. Because I am a little bit suspicious. But as Tim points out, quote tweeting from CNBC, job growth accelerated to 428,000 in April. More than expected as jobs picture stays strong. It's not strong. Yes, you can throw 428,000 non-farm jobs across the country. But what jobs are they? That's going to be your big question right now. What jobs are they? What are people doing and where are they getting, what are they doing for money? But the other side of that comes from MarketWatch here, because U.S. jobless claims jumped in the latest week. Now, this is a week by week. This is not a month by month, like the rest of the things that we're looking at are. This is a week by week, so U.S. jobless claims jumped in the latest week by biggest amount since last July. The claims are up 19,000 to 200,000 new initial unemployment filings, which means these are the people who are getting fired, who can't cut it at their jobs, or for whatever reason are getting laid off because the job had to go back and shut down. From Greg Robb. Initial jobless claims rose by 19,000 to 200,000 this week, and in April 30th, the Labor Department said on Thursday, this is the biggest weekly rise in claims since last July and the highest level since mid-February. Economists polled by the Wall Street Journal had estimated new claims would rise only 182,000. The number of people already collecting jobless benefits fell by 19,000 to 1.38 million in the week ended in April 23rd. That's the lowest level since early 1970. And again, we've got to ask the question, who retired, who came out of the job market, who's not on this stat other than the people who are going back to work? Economists said most of the increase was due to seasonal adjustment factors rather than any widespread pickup in layoffs. One of the biggest gains in non-adjusted claims was in New York, which Stephen Stanley, chief economist at Amherst Pierpoint, attributed to teachers getting assistance during spring break. Oh, it's teachers, you say? The gain claims doesn't echo the softening in the labor market in April detected by the ADP National Employment Report. The ADP data noted a decline in small business hiring, but economists weren't worried. Even in a boom, some small firms fall or downsize, so claims can't drop to zero, said Ian Shepherdson, chief economist at Pantheon Microeconomics. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell on Wednesday described the labor market as extremely tight. Over the first 3 months of the year, employment has risen by 1.7 million jobs this year, he noted. A strong labor market is one reason the economy can handle tighter monetary policy, Powell said. Okay. I would look for claims to move back below 200,000, Stanley said in a note to clients. Stocks Dow Jones opened lower on Thursday after rallying the prior session on a view that the Fed wasn't as hawkish as feared in its policy decisions. So, interesting note to watch with that. Now, before we get into the daily article, because I think that's going to be the most important side of this, and again, it's not a matter of the number of jobs, it is what jobs are coming back, are doing this. I want to point something else out. Now, what we saw for Wednesday, as far as the market goes, what we saw for that was a matter of kind of a whipsaw day and then a shoot at the end. Let me actually see if I can get the chart back up for the 5-day for that. Yeah, so we see a great big jump here at the end of Wednesday. And then a jump back out of a dismal failure at the end of Tuesday. Which, as my friend Seawall pointed out when we were talking about this, at the very end, because this was at the very end of trading, within the last hour, somebody called in a favor. And I'm actually willing to bet after sitting here like this, towards the end of the day, this is another factor. If somebody called in a favor, somebody came in and said, hey, let's go buy a bunch of stuff up. This does appear to be an attempt to be artificially holding up the Dow, especially, but all the major stock markets right now, because this affects retirement. This affects where people can do. And as we go on, we'll talk from the Daily Wire talking about retirement, but this affects what people can do when they're out of the market. But it does seem like it's getting harder and harder for them to BlackRock and Vanguard their way out of a stock market that is really kind of coming out of their control right now. So that's what we see off of that. Let's read this one from the Daily Wire. Biden's economy sends America into unretirement, from Ben Seesloft. Americans are leaving retirement due to inflation and a tight job market, according to data released last month by job platform Indeed. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the number of retired seniors surged from 28.3 million in February to 31.6 million in October of 2021. However, price levels and other economic challenges are now forcing Americans into unretirement. Indeed reported that as of March of 2022, roughly 3.2% of workers who were retired a year earlier are now employed. Indeed said that a decrease in subsequent rebound in unretirement has precedent. During the financial crisis of 07-09, the last major recession to impact the U.S., workers were enticed out of retirement as the labor market became more lucrative. Yet, with consumer prices Inflation rates after the financial crisis mostly stayed within range of the Federal Reserve's long-term 2% target, briefly spiked to nearly 4% in 2011 before returning to relatively stable levels. The aftermath of the pinko pox and the lockdown-induced economic troubles, however, has been marked by a once-in-a-generation surges. As of March of 2022, consumer price levels are increasing at an 8.5% rate. It's hard to rule out the influence of waning concerns about the pandemic and faster inflation, as they are surely factors indeed acknowledged, but it's not clear that they are the main reasons. From October of 2021 to March of 2022 alone, more than 850,000 Americans returned to the job market. According to the Federal Reserve, over the same period, inflation increased by another 2.3%, after having already risen from 1.4% in January of 2021. The rise in prices has outpaced nominal increases in pay, producing a nearly 3% decline in real wages, stretching Americans' budgets with respect to food, gas, and housing and other necessities. A recent poll found that 94% of Americans were either upset or concerned about the impact of skyrocketing inflation, while a slim 28% approved of President Biden's approach towards managing price levels. It's the economy, stupid. And now, yes, as they pointed out in this article, at one point it became more financially viable, the jobs started coming back, and they started making more in retirement. I mean, we've seen some of this with unemployment. I have a cousin, and I hate to pick on her for this, but it works as a great example of what I'm talking about here, because during the recession, during the decline, during the downturn, she went on to long-term disability, because there really weren't the jobs there. As much as her mom told her that she needed to go out and get a job and take whatever, I mean, there really weren't the jobs there at the time when she was doing this. I still don't agree with the idea of going on to government assistance for that, but, I mean, here we sit, here we are. But after the job market started to surge, after the wages started to rise, she went out and got a job, a real job, because it was more lucrative for her to not be on the government dole, but to actually be out there and actually have a real full-time job than it was to be on the markets. And that's one of the things that I've tried to stress when we talk about the economy and where it goes with that, is the goal is to, and it's the same thing we said when we were talking about Anna Kasparian yesterday, which she says, what's the Republicans' plan if people have to be forced to give birth? Well, to make an economy good enough that one parent can stay home without having to worry. That's the plan. That's what we're hoping to do. And it's being fought every single direction off of this, but it's the same way. But this is not that. This is the fact that seniors are looking at this, or people who are close to senior age, are looking at their retirement, how long they have to be retired for, realizing that their retirement, even though, the Dow is honk honk up, even though the Dow is supposedly up right now, the stuff that they're buying, their medicines, their food. And for those who left their homes and have to go rent because it's either assisted living or something, the services for assisted living, those are all going up. And they have to go back into the market in order to make ends meet. So this is devastating news. It's the economy, stupid. And that's what I think this whole abortion thing is trying to cover up for. All right, let's get into the big news of the day. Let's go talk about some of the abortion stuff here. So I want to see if I can actually find a video of this, because Dr. Oz is having a conversation about this. But reading from the New York Post, byproduct of rape, GOP Senate candidate makes shocking revelation during primary debate, from Mark Moore. The debate among Republican primary hopefuls for the U.S. Senate turned jaw-droppingly personal during a discussion about abortion when one of the candidates revealed that she was the child of rape. I am so very grateful that our nation is having a very important conversation about life, said Kathy Barnett, an Army vet running for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, during a Wednesday night debate. Is this the whole thing? I think this might just be the clip of what happened here. Let's see what we can find.
Draft. This decision could overturn Roe versus Wade. You have all said you are pro-life. Are you in favor of any exceptions for abortions? Have you changed your opinion over the years? If so, what has changed your mind? You have 1 minute. Ms. Barnett, you're first.
Thank you. Whether this was a leak or whether it was a tactical operation, we will soon figure out. But one thing is clear. I am so very grateful that our nation is now having a very important conversation, and that is one of the most important conversations, that is about life. I am the byproduct of a rape. My mother was 11 years old when I was conceived. My father was 21. I was not just a lump of cells. As you can see, I'm still not just a lump of cells. My life has value. And that is one of the reasons why it was so very disturbing when I saw Mehmet Oz running for this particular race, when I've seen him on numerous occasions, and specifically at the Breakfast Club, saying that my life was nothing more than a acorn with electrical currents. I am wondering if the good doctor has now since changed his position on that. My life is valuable, and so are the many lives that find themselves in the womb of their mother, whether in the womb or towards the end of that life.
Dr. Oz, you have 30 seconds to respond. That was directed at you, sir.
You know, one of the toughest endorsements you can ever get is from your mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law is an ordained minister. She wrote a lot of the pro-life literature in Montgomery County where we live, and she certainly understands that I'm pro-life. As a heart surgeon, I've operated on small children, a few days old, and witnessed the majesty of their hearts pounding blood, even though it's ill, because I'm operating on them, through those bodies. I would never think of harming that child, or even 9 months earlier, because life starts at conception.
All right. Mr. Bartos, now your 1 minute answer to the question. I'm
pro-life. In Pennsylvania.
So that's quite the shocking revelation indeed. That's and to be carried by some 11 years old at, I don't know how old, and obviously you never escalate your age, but you know, this woman is probably, well, to be in the Senate, she's in her 30s, because I think it's 35 to be in the Senate. 30 or 35. Actually, I think it's 30, because I think it's 25 for House, 30 for Senate, and 35 for President. So this woman is at least 30 years old. So to be carried by an 11-year-old in the early 90s, late 80s to early 90s, let's say, because let's say she's even just a little bit older than that. She is very young. And to still come back out and to make this out of her life, that is incredible. But, I mean, that does bring up some of the argument. Now, I've used this as a sort of a compromise to pull out the idea that, you know, these pro-abort people they're looking to look out for the convenience abortions, not the rape and incest ones. But I've always said, okay, I mean, if this is the kind of thing that you'd look for, if this is the statistic you want to bring up, is even if it's rape and incest, which to an understand. For incest, I can say, yeah, it's because of the genetic component to it, and for rape, it's because, you know, there's the psychological damage of having to carry your attacker's child inside of you. Reminder of what happened that night over and over again. I can understand those two positions. I don't care for them, but I can understand them at the very least. But even there, it's clearly still, there's the viability of a person with that. So I don't have the answer. It's a conversation we can have. I still think that it's murder. But this is the conversation that's going to be put forward to us as we come into this midterms. And you are going to be called horrific names if you don't support the idea of baby murder up until birth. You are going to be called that. Whether it's that you want the government to mandate it or you just want society and morals to mandate it. You are going to be called horrible things. Just as I'm sure this woman is. But that's what we have from that. From the Blaze, Black man stuns pro-abortion protesters with one simple question about Black lives, viral video shows. A black man left a pro-abortion protester speechless when confronted them outside a medical clinic and asked them a simple question according to a viral video circulating on social media. Do we have the video? We do. Details about the video are scarce, but its message is resonating on social media in light of the Supreme Court's leaked potential decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, a move that would roll back federal abortion rights and send the controversial issue back to the states. In response to the forthcoming ruling, abortion advocates have flocked to the nation's capital and gathered outside of abortion clinics across the country in protest, characterizing the decision as unjust violence against the women. The viral video purportedly shows such demonstrations taking place outside of a clinic of some sort, but the event most likely did not take place recently given the subject matter of the demonstration. In the video, a group of doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals are seen holding signs that say BLM and white coats for Black Lives. So yeah, this was probably last summer, I would have to guess, based on just what they said there. Let's see. Let's listen.
Lives matter or just some black lives? The black lives killed by black men matter, right? Yes? The black babies killed in the abortions clinics matter, right? Thought so. The black officers killed by that bastard in Minnesota, that matters too, right? Okay. But the black babies that are killed in the abortion clinics don't matter, do they, medical people? Do their lives matter? Does the future of our black babies matter? Huh? What's up? What's up? Awful quiet now, aren't they? Uh-huh. It's okay if we kill them in the womb, right? But you have a problem when you don't seem to really have a problem when we kill them on the streets. Yes, well, we know they're the same issue. If we don't respect the lives of our unborn children enough to save them and fight for them, our lives mean nothing once we're born.
Wow. Well, that happened. And I mean, it's an argument that's come out of the pro-life circles as well, and it's one to bring up. They typically put the Planned Parenthood in one of the poor neighborhoods in whatever city it happens to be in. That's not being hyperbolic. They typically do that. So, I mean, something to watch for as well. And they say, and I've never actually gone back and backed this statistic up, but they say that the vast majority of aborted babies out there are black. So, do those lives matter? That's a good question. I see you're a little bit silent out there now because of that. The video has begun spreading like wildfire on social media, garnering more than 1 million views in just a matter of hours, as pro-life advocates celebrate the possibility the Supreme Court will rule against Roe. It highlights the cognitive dissonance displayed by many progressive activists who support both racial justice for black people and barbaric practice that disproportionately terminates black babies, a data point noted by Justice Samuel Alito in his draft opinion. Each year, approximately 2/3 of abortions in the U.S. involve black unborn babies, despite black people only accounting for 13% of the population, according to a congressional. There's that 13 number. I hope they don't give us a percentage that's more than half in just a moment here. According to a congressional report published in 2015, abortion is the leading cause of death in the black community, accounting for more deaths than all the others combined, including AIDS, violent crime, accidents, cancer, and heart disease. Let me just see what they're citing here. So this is KFF, State Health Facts, reported legal abortions by race of women who obtained abortion by the state of occurrence. Looks like across the U.S., 38%. And, I mean, you're seeing some shocking numbers in states like Alabama. And Mississippi, holy shit. And other states that are not reported. So, good point. Good point to bring up off of that. All right, what else do we have? From CNN, Roe leak may impact how Supreme Court decides gun rights, climate, and immigration cases this spring. From Ariana DeFoe. When Supreme Court justices gather on May 12th for their next closed-door conference to discuss pending petitions and outstanding opinions, everything will have changed. At their conference, the secrecy is so guarded that no one else is allowed in the room. Amy Coney Barrett, as the junior-most justice, is charged with opening the door if someone knocks. But such precautions seem almost quaint now. The court that prides itself on collegiality, independence, and devotion to protocol, and processes reeling from what Justice John Roberts called a betrayal of confidence, intended to undermine the integrity of our operations. While leaks are common in other branches of the government, a leak of a draft Supreme Court opinion published by Politico in the most important abortion case in decades is seismic. In the coming days, an investigation launched by Roberts will commence and presumably have long-term impact on what will trigger changes in protocol and add new levels of secrecy. In the short term, however, the implications of the leak could be more serious. That's because in the coming weeks, justices will have to resolve the abortion dispute, as well as a major Second Amendment case and others dealing with immigration, religious liberty, and the environment. The 9 justices, their more than 3 dozen law clerks, and the administrative aides must constantly and collegially collaborate to draft opinions in order for the Supreme Court to function, said Mike Davis, a former clerk to Neil Gorsuch. This requires strict confidence and utmost truth, both of which this unprecedented leak shattered. Those deliberations that involve a careful choreography between chambers could be damaging going forward. Such work requires frank conversations and a shared trust, and that might be difficult to muster knowing that what happens behind closed doors could be broadcast to the world. Here are the major cases the court is considering that could have major impact in American life. Obviously, we know Roe versus Wade and abortion and the draft opinion. Second Amendment rights. The court hasn't issued an opinion in a major Second Amendment case in more than a decade, but it has the opportunity before it now. Justices are considering whether to strike down a New York gun law enacted more than a century ago that places restrictions on carrying a concealed gun outside the home. As the justices debate the issue in secret, they will decide whether to issue a broad decision holding that the right to keep and bear arms extends to the right to carry a handgun outside the home, which it does, or whether to focus more narrowly on a handful of laws that give licensing officials a large degree of discretion on deciding who gets a permit. School vouchers and prayer. Behind the scenes, justices are likely divided in a case concerning the exclusion of religious schools from a main tuition assistance program that allows parents to use vouchers to send their children to public or private school. The conservatives on the court have, in recent terms, expanded religious liberty rights, while the liberals have moved at times to bolster the separation between church and state. Another pending case concerns a former high school football coach who wants to pray at the 50-yard line after games. At all arguments, the conservatives seem sympathetic to the religious rights of the coach, whereas the liberals express concerns about students feeling coerced to participate in prayer led by their coach. Really? So the coach does not have the right, as a state-funded official, to coerce people. But if you're going to say that prayer never happens in school, you've never seen or heard what God hears right after it's announced that there's going to be a pop quiz for a difficult subject at the beginning of a class that nobody knew about. Climate crisis. The justices are also considering a case brought by Republican attorneys general who argue that the Environmental Protection Agency has no authority to regulate planet-warming emissions from the power sector. They argue that instead the authority should come through Congress. The result will have enormous implications for Biden's climate agenda and the future of environmental regulations overall. And remain in Mexico and immigration. There are several disputes concerning immigration before the court. In one, Biden seeks to end the Trump-era Remain in Mexico, which requires non-Mexican migrants to stay in Mexico until their U.S. immigration court dates. Lower courts have blocked Biden from ending the policy. The justices will be reviewing a sweeping lower court decision that could significantly alter immigration programs going forward. And what a lot of this looks like, by the way, just looking in at the list of stuff that they're doing here, that stuff that CNN is complaining about, A lot of this is either the Second Amendment's absolutism and whether or not it's there, or various other constitutional absolutisms like the Second Amendment, like the First Amendment, and the only part of the First Amendment that the left knows anything about, separation of church and state. Others are things like the climate crisis, like the abortion argument, things that should have been obviously decided by representatives of the people, not 9 unelected judges. And I would even go as far as to say that that's what Remain in Mexico should have been as well. I think the migrants should, but I think that should have been decided by a legislature, not by a sweeping executive order. I'm not a fan of executive orders to begin with, but I can also see where a left-leaning CNN or left-leaning CNN writer like Ariana DeVoe, and we've read a lot of stuff by her, we know where she leans, could see where Second Amendment and nationwide concealed carry, which is on the table, by the way, could be a panic-inducing idea for somebody like Ariana DeVoe. So that's where we go with that. That's what we see with that, and that's what happens from that. Let's grab one. Well, let's hear what the red-haired bobblehead has to say in one of probably her last press conferences out there.
The President's position on choice has evolved over time, so just checking for his official position. Does he support any limits on abortion right now?
Peter, the President has talked about his position many times. He supports the right of a woman to make choices about her own body with her doctor.
But I know that one of the Democrats that he endorsed and who won their primary this week, Tim Ryan, said yesterday that he does not support any limits on abortion. Is that where the President's thinking is now?
The President has stated his view many times.
So does the President support abortion up until the moment of birth?
The President has spoken about this many times, Peter, and I would refer you to his own comments about abortion and a woman's right to choose.
But that's your job, red-haired bobblehead. You are supposed to be, you are the mouthpiece of the President. That's what you do. That's what you were hired to be. And that's, ironically enough, what you're going to be at MSDNC, too. From Axios, Schumer, Senate to vote on abortion rights next week despite lacking votes. From Shauna Chen, Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer said Thursday the Senate will vote next week to codify abortion rights into federal law, even though Democrats lack the votes to ensure the bill's passage. Abortion advocates and Democratic candidates have doubled down on calls for the Congress to pass legislation protecting abortion rights since a leaked draft of the Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade was published. The measure lacks even 50 votes, far short of the 60 votes it would need, as all Republicans are likely to vote against, and Manchin voted against similar legislation earlier this year. What he's saying, Republicans have two choices. They can own the destruction of women's rights, or they can reverse course and work to prevent the damage, Schumer said. The move is... that's New York Times notes. The move is little more than an effort to send a political message ahead of the midterm elections and a seismic ruling that could have major legal, cultural, and electoral consequences, and that also carries deep significance for voters across the political spectrum, the New York Times notes. Manchin and Sinema said Tuesday that they plan to uphold the filibuster, leaving Democrats with few legislative options to try to stop the Supreme Court from issuing a decision that would end the nationwide right to abortion. So, they're going to vote on it. The thing with this is, by the way, this is a symbolic vote. Schumer knows that he can't get this passed. He knows full well that he cannot get this passed. But it's symbolic. This is what they're going to run when it comes time to start running campaign ads. Everything that is happening from, let's say, about last month, middle of March, I guess last month would be April already now, wouldn't it? So about middle of March until about the last week of October at this point is going to be trying to secure and hold on to power desperately by Democrats. And that's pretty much governmentally, that's what you can assume from here on out. The leak, the Second Amendment rights case, the vote to codify Roe, the Marjorie Taylor Greene hearing, everything that you see from mid-March on is going to be nothing but power. The Madison Cawthorn videos. That's going to be another one. Because they don't want to pass this. And this is actually something important too, with the filibuster in place. The Senate doesn't want to pass this. Because there are a lot of middle-of-the-road Democrats who then have to go back to their constituency and say, yes, I voted to give you the right to murder your babies. And while that may play well in districts like Cortez's, let's just use hers as an example, or because it's the Senate, let's use states for an example. While that may play well for states like California, New York, etc., purpling states like Wisconsin, and I would argue Minnesota as well, because I think that's going to start purpling as we go, as the union starts to move out, as they start to drive more union work out of there. You're going to start to see that purple up in the other direction from being solid blue to purple. Illinois is never going to because it's got Chicago, obviously. But even places like Missouri, where these senators are going to have to go back, and if there's a Democrat senator involved, say, hey, I protected your rights, and the more religious, or even the more union level Democrat that put them into office and like, hey, what the fuck, man? Not only that, but they lose an issue to run on. They can't go back and run and say, well, you need to keep me in power here because otherwise the evil Republicans are going to make abortion illegal. So just keep voting for me, and I'll make sure that the Supreme Court stays in our hands. Or I'll make sure that the legislation comes in. Oh, sorry, we were blocked by the evil Republicans. Hence why this was not addressed in 2008, when there was a filibuster-proof majority to make it happen. From Fox News, Gavin Newsom savagely mocked as disgusting transphobe for claiming men can't get pregnant at abortion rally. From Gabriel Hayes, conservatives on Twitter had a field day bashing Gavin Newsom for getting his far-left talking points mixed up. At an abortion rally, he denied that men can get pregnant, which goes against the current woke ideology. On Wednesday, Newsom posted a video of himself speaking to abortion and Planned Parenthood supporters about his commitment to defend the reproductive rights of women and girls in California in a rebuke to the potential Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade that was leaked in a court draft opinion on Monday. Newsom's speech consisted of the typical boilerplate pro-abortion talking points, but the caption for this video made one assertion conservatives thought the left had abandoned some time ago. If men could get pregnant, this wouldn't be a conversation, Newsom tweeted. This decision isn't about strengthening families, it's about extremism, it's about control. We will fight for the right to choose. Conservative commentators were quick to point out that Newsom's claim that men not being able to get pregnant is inconsistent with the current far-left narrative on gender and sex, which now insists that men, trans men, can become pregnant. Lazy and overused talking point aside, it was just a few months ago when Democrats claimed it's not just women that can get pregnant, Seattle radio host Jason Rantz reminded his followers. I don't know if you heard, but men have periods and men can get pregnant, tweeted Red State Deputy Editor Kira Davis. I don't make the rules, I'm just reminding you of your own. Pro-life activist and former NFL player Benjamin Watson tweeted, it must be incredibly exhausting to be required to constantly remember which men can and which men can't get pregnant. Yeah. I know it's a funny way to say it too, like, hey, if men could get pregnant, you'd be able to buy Plan B at the liquor store. if men had periods, they'd be flavored in multicolored tampons and this and that and the next thing. I'm like, yeah. But see, now that's not the narrative anymore. From the Blaze, Biden officials panic that they can't do anything to stop the reversal of Roe. And this is from WAPO by the Blaze. A Washington Post report that said that Biden admin was caught off guard by the leak showing the Supreme Court was primed to overturn Roe v. Wade, and officials are panicked about the inability to stop it. A lot of what the Biden admin could do would be the window dressing, in that ultimately we're going to have a system of conflicting access to reproductive health and rights depending on the state that you live in, said Georgetown health law expert Lawrence Gostin. And there's very little that Biden can do about that. Many Democrats have called for abortion rights to be codified into law by Congress, but that effort is dependent on Democrats voting in unison to shut down the filibuster. Both Manchin and Sinema have said they would not support the congressional maneuver. The report said the admin was debating numerous executive and regulatory measures to defend abortion rights, but most of those efforts would likely be doomed if they were challenged and decided in the Supreme Court. Every single thing that they're going to do is get legally challenged, and every lawyer agrees, said one outside advisor. A bunch of attorneys general will mobilize, and the admin will lose. While many on the right are applauding the report the court might overturn the landmark decision, they are angered that someone apparently tried to intimidate the courts by leaking the draft report. A defiant statement from the Supreme Court Justice John Roberts assured whoever was culpable that the court would not be influenced by the unprecedented leak. To the extent this betrayal of the competences of the court was intended to undermine the integrity of our operations, it will not succeed. The work of the court will not be affected in any way, Roberts said. And The Blaze has a video out that says, will SCOTUS leak really lead to blue wave? And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to say maybe. We're not going to watch the news and why it matters, obviously, but honestly, maybe. Because while we look at this, and while this is going to galvanize people who are going to go back out to go and vote against the people who want to go back and codify this, this is, in a very, very rough election cycle for Democrats, the one unifying talking point to get people to go out to vote in an election they don't typically go out and vote in. This will drive turnout for the midterms. What will happen out of it, I'm not sure. But you can better bet we're going to continue to watch and see. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. Bobblehead says there's no official U.S. government position on activists protesting outside SCOTUS justice homes. Some more Psaki and Ducey. After congratulating Psaki's incoming replacement, Karine Jean-Pierre, on being named president, Biden's next press secretary, Peter Ducey turned to the topic of planned protests over the recently leaked early opinion draft, indicating the Supreme Court would be poised to overturn the landmark case. Let's watch.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Sorry to see you go.
Are you?
Yes, and you've always been a good sport.
Thank you.
So
As
on
have you.
behalf of everybody, thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything.
Thank you.
And can't wait to see you up there, Kareem. So you guys spent some time yesterday talking about what you think are the extreme wings of the Republican Party. Do you think the progressive activists that are now planning protests outside some of the justices' houses are extreme?
Peaceful protest? No. Peaceful protest is not extreme.
What else do we have?
Some of these justices have young kids. Their neighbors are not all public figures. So would the president think about waiving off activists that want to go into residential neighborhoods in Virginia and Maryland?
Peter, look, I think our view here is that peaceful protest, there's a long history in the United States and the country of that. And we certainly encourage people to keep it peaceful and not resort to any level of violence. Let me tell you what I was referring to and what the president was referring to yesterday.
Not about yesterday, so just about moving forward. These activists posted a map with the home addresses of the Supreme Court justices.
So, we have no position on this. This whole 30-second thing, by the way, Curtis Hook, or whoever you are, which I don't know who he is or why he's blue checkmark, but get your shit together. Give us a 2-minute clip here.
Is that the kind of thing this president wants to help your side make their point?
Look, I think the president's view is that there's a lot of passion, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness from many, many people across this country about what they saw in that leaked document. We obviously want people's privacy to be respected. We want people to protest peacefully if they want to protest. That is certainly what the president's view would be.
He doesn't care if they're protesting outside the Supreme Court or outside someone's private residence.
I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest. We want it, of course, to be peaceful. And certainly the president would want people's privacy to be respected. But I think we shouldn't lose the point here. The reason people are protesting is because women across the country are worried about their fundamental rights that have been law for 50 years. Their rights to make choices about their own bodies and their own health care are at risk. That's why people are protesting. They're unhappy. They're scared.
All right. So, after listening to 3 minutes of Jen Psaki and Peter Doocy going back and forth with each other in small little 28-second clips, the point of the matter is, and I've said this for a long time too, as far as protests go, you've got the public land, the government buildings. And I've said this about protests outside Democrat homes, too. Because, they've talked about going to Brianna Wu's house. They've talked about, a lot of the more aggressive protesters, like the Friends of BLM, don't typically go to Democrat areas, except for Lori Lightfoot's area. They went there. But they don't typically go for areas like that. But I say, no, stay out of it. No matter who the protester is, don't go to their homes. Like was pointed out by Doocy, their neighbors had nothing to do with this. There are kids in that neighborhood. There are people that just wanted to go to work. I wasn't a fan of the Canadians. The Toronto protesters going into the residential areas. I wanted them to stay on the public square and lock that down. And not go and park outside of other people's houses. Which they did. They absolutely did. Your beef is with government officials. Not their neighbors, not their families. Government appointed officials. And I was about to say elected officials, but hey, this is the Supreme Court. They're not elected officials either. That is who your beef is with. So carry your beef with them. From Fox News. Cornyn introduces bill expanding security for Supreme Court justices as liberal groups target their homes. From Anders Hagstrom. John Cornyn introduced legislation expanding protections for Supreme Court justices and their families as a liberal group plans protests at the justices' homes. The legislation would allow Supreme Court police to arrest individuals who interfere with the court's ability to perform its duties, as well as create a criminal penalty for individuals who impede or obstruct those duties. Cornyn introduced the legislation, and in the same day, a group calling itself Ruth Sent Us organized protests outside the homes of 6 conservative justices. Attempts to intimidate the Supreme Court justices by the radical left are sadly nothing new, but dangerous nonetheless, Cornyn said in a statement. We must protect the justices and their families in case these protests do turn violent. The liberal activist group has published the supposed home address of Justices Barrett, Roberts, Alito, Kavanaugh, Thomas, and Gorsuch. Our 6-3 extremist Supreme Court routinely issues rulings that hurt women, racial minorities, LGBTQ7BL72GL+, and immigrant rights, the group's website reads. We must raise up a force accountable using a diversity of tactics. Fox News is told that there's been a strong police presence at the justice's home following the leak. The group says they will visit the homes on May 11th. The D.C. police has erected fencing around the Supreme Court building in anticipation of escalating protests this weekend. Police have also activated protest response units through Sunday. I'm willing to bet that we're not going to see anything happen out of that. Not going to lie. Willing to bet that that's not going to go anywhere. Because honestly, if they were going to protest, a lot of these people don't have jobs and they were going to be protesting anyway. But I'm here with the popcorn in case they do decide to go and protest and bust down the fences and crack the doors and this, that, and the next thing. But don't worry, it won't be an evil insurrection. From The Blaze, Congresswoman appears to not know how the Supreme Court works, and even CNN is embarrassed for her. On the Rubin Report, Blaze TV host Dave Rubin talked about the ridiculous reactions of Democrats like Pramila Jayapal to the leaked Supreme Court decision that would overturn Roe v. Wade. During a live interview on CNN's Newsroom, Jayapal told host Victor Blackwell that the court does not have the right to overturn Roe v. Wade. This is a stunning rebuke of precedent and other fundamental freedoms that women have the choice about our own bodies and our own futures and our own economic security. The thing is, Victor, that these justices are acting like this is somehow something that they have the right to change. Let's listen.
Of the fundamental freedom that women have to make choices about our own bodies and our own futures and our own economic security. And the thing is, Victor, that these justices are acting like this is somehow something that they have the right to change. They do not have the right to change this, which has been settled law for 2 generations now of people who have grown up, who have gone through their 20s in the firm belief that they can make these decisions about their own bodies. The only thing that has changed is the makeup of the Supreme Court.
Well, see, there's so much wrong with that statement. Number one, it's never been settled law because your body has never legislated it. Now, if you legislate it and a challenge arises to this law and it goes to the Supreme Court and they make the decision and say, yes, your law is absolutely constitutional, then it would be settled law. But this is a settled Supreme Court decision. This is a decision as to what the right to privacy extends to and what it does not. Settled law. Yeah, she has no idea what's going on here. Speaking of CNN, from CNN, let's move off of this topic. Let's go talk about Dave Chappelle. From CNN, Dave Chappelle's alleged attacker will not face felony charges after DA declines case. From Sherry Mossberg and Taylor Romine. The LA District Attorney's Office will not pursue felony charges against Isaiah Lee, the man accused of leaping onto the stage and attacking comedian Dave Chappelle during a performance at the Hollywood Bowl on Tuesday night. Lee was, however, charged with 4 misdemeanors, including battery and possession of a weapon. LA City Attorney Mike Feuer announced in a press release and video message posted to Twitter on Thursday afternoon. DA spokesperson Greg Reisling said in a statement to CNN, after reviewing the evidence, prosecutors determined that while criminal conduct occurred, the evidence presented did not constitute felony conduct. Really? Did we see the same video? Because I saw a guy with a deadly weapon, a knife, made to look like a gun, with a pistol grip. Why didn't we know how much you hate those in California? run up onto the stage and attempt to murder somebody. I see at least one felony there, possibly two, depending on how you deal with your concealed weapons laws in California. But he'll probably pay a fine and be out back on the streets. From NBC, AG Garland launches office focused on environmental justice. From Dara Gregorian, AG Garland on Thursday announced a new office at the Justice Department that will focus exclusively on environmental justice. The office, which will prioritize low-income communities that have been hit hard by pollution and contamination, was launched in partnership with the EPA. The Office of Environmental Justice will serve as the central hub for our efforts to advance our comprehensive environmental justice enforcement strategy, Garland said at a news conference alongside EPA Administrator Michael Regan. Although violations of our environmental laws can happen anywhere, communities of color... Oh god, this is where they're going with this. By the way, again, didn't pre-read the article. No idea what it was that they were going to go with on this, and... well, I guess I'm not disappointed either. Communities of color, indigenous communities, and low-income communities often bear the brunt of the harm caused by the environmental crime, pollution, and climate change, Garland added. There you go. Climate change is racist. You got there. Oh, this makes my head hurt. I feel like Picard because I have to facepalm so much. Climate change is racist. That's what they're doing. And they're making a 3-letter government agency to tell you that climate change is racist. It's a wonder that word has any meaning left at this point. The Biden admin has asked Congress for $1.4 million for the office. Of your money, again, by the way. Shalonda Young, director of White House Office of Management and Budget, recently told lawmakers that the Justice Department absolutely needs the tools to make sure all Americans are treated equally under the law, even when there are environmental issues. This kind of makes me hate everything right now. I'm not going to lie. From the New York Post. Sonny Hostin blames Trump for Dave Chappelle attack on The View. Must have had these backwards. Whatever. Donald Trump's presidency sparked a shockwave of violence, according to the women of The View. Following the shocking assault of comedian Dave Chappelle on Tuesday, host Sonny Hostin blamed Trump as the catalyst behind a spate of brazen attacks, claiming that he released some incivility across the country. Co-host Whoopi Goldberg prompted Hostin's accusation during Wednesday's episode, asking the View panel, "What do you think is happening? I mean, it's happening on airplanes, it's happening on street corners." Responding to Goldberg, Joy Behar first launched a litany of amplified factors: the pandemic, the opioid crisis, the fact that Trump was out there saying things like, "Just knock the hell out of him. I promise I'll pay for legal fees," when he had a heckler. She was likely referring to the 2016 Trump rally in Iowa, in which the candidate urged constituents to be on the defensive and the offensive. If you see someone getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of him. I promise you, I'll pay your legal fees. I promise. Behar added the moment that Will Smith slapped Oscar presenter Chris Rock on stage was the piece de resistance, if you will. However, Lindsey Granger, a guest co-host of the ABC talk show, rebuffed Behar, saying, "This is not a political thing, come on." "I know you want to wrap it all up in politics. This is really about security," Granger added. She further elaborated that there was nothing particularly right-leaning about Smith's slap during the March 27th ceremony. "It didn't happen before," Behar shrugged. "I do think Trump unleashed some incivility, at least in our country," Hostin offered. "Is there video of these three clucking around with each other?" "No, there isn't. Not here, anyway." I wonder if I refresh this, if it'll bring up a video. Only one way to find out. Nope, just the attack on the stage. So, there you go. Dave Chappelle getting attacked in California. It's all Trump's fault. I mean, we can sit back here and say the 13 thing and, follow it up long enough that Susan doesn't notice it or the robots don't notice it on the 51 thing. If we really want to, but realistically, this is individuals who are going nuts. I'm an individualist, I'm not a collectivist. From the Orlando Sentinel. Floridians may get to carry guns without a permit. How would it affect them and Disney? Well, see, Disney is not only private property, but a self-governing district. So they can tell whoever they want to get off their property, especially if that person is carrying an item that they don't want in their park. From Stephen Lemongello and Jeffrey Schweers. Ron DeSantis, whom critics often accuse of shooting from the hip, is pushing yet another proposal that leaves a lot of unanswered questions about what supporters call constitutional carry of guns. While the term usually refers to the laws allowing people to carry handguns without getting a state permit, it remains unclear just what it will actually mean in practice, including if businesses such as Disney World could ban guns on their property. Yes. The biggest question, though, is whether such a bill would actually clear a Florida Senate that has repeatedly killed previous attempts to pass versions of it. Detractors would worry that the governor, whose power over the legislature has been nearly absolute this year as he runs for re-election this fall, will be able to push it through this time. If DeSantis demands that he wants to do this, Republicans will follow, said Linda Coffin, an Orlando volunteer with Moms Demand Action, an affiliate of Everytown for Gun Safety. It wasn't just an issue until DeSantis said, "I'm going to make this pass." Florida's become an anomaly among Republican-controlled southern states, many of which have passed such laws over the past decade. Instead, the Sunshine State currently stands with Democratic-controlled states such as New York and Illinois and California when it comes to restrictions on carrying firearms in public. In Florida, anyone carrying a handgun in public must obtain a concealed weapons permit, which requires a background check and training and prohibits openly wearing the weapon. Coffin equated it to getting a driver's license to drive a car. In the past 2 years, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas were among states that passed permitless carry laws, putting pressure on Florida. She said 37 states now have some version of permitless gun laws. Florida's like, oh, we have to get on the bandwagon. Requiring permits has been uncontroversial for decades, said Noah Lubentobing, a spokesman for the gun reform group March for Our Lives, which was created after the Parkland shooting in South Florida that killed 17 in 2018. In New York, we've had laws for 100 years, Lubentobing said, but the last few years we've seen an increase in states passing the constitutional carry laws, and while they vary for the most part, it's really about removing all restrictions to carrying concealed firearms, and sometimes even openly carrying firearms in public spaces. So, in Wisconsin, and this actually may change at some point here because of the Supreme Court decision that CNN was freaking out about earlier, in Wisconsin, It's actually the opposite. You can, you, me, anybody, as long as you're not a felon, and they can go and verify that, you can go grab a holster. You can go grab it from the police overstock when they go sell all their stuff. You can go grab a holster on the outside, and you can open carry anywhere that doesn't have a sign. Now, if there's a sign, then you can't do that, obviously, because private property rights supersede state law. So long as they're more restrictive than the state laws, of course. But any of you can just strap one on the outside, as long as it's clearly visible, and go wherever you please, so long as, again, it's not posted that you can't have a weapon inside. And we do have permit for concealed carry, but you don't need one for open carry. In fact, you don't need one, because concealed carry goes with a concealed weapon in the vehicle and loaded weapon in the vehicle too. Without a permit in my truck, you can go and rest your handgun. There's a little dish in the front dashboard of my truck. And without a permit, if you got one of those in your truck, you can just set your handgun right up there and be in complete compliance with the law. Loaded, unloaded, no matter what. Uncased. It used to be, when I was a kid, it used to be cased and unloaded, by the way. It was the only way that you could carry. But now you can open carry in the vehicle. But if it's going to be in your console, if it's going to be under your seat or whatnot, then you have to have the concealed carry permit for it. Constitutional carry is a term popularized by gun rights proponents based on their interpretation of the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitutional carry means that the state's law does not prohibit citizens who can illegally possess a firearm from carrying handguns openly and or in a concealed manner, thus no state permit is required, writes U.S. Concealed Carry Association, one of the largest groups promoting the idea. So they're freaking out about this because they think that this means that somebody can just walk into Disney and shoot the fucking place up. I am sure that Disney will have it posted everywhere that you can see. If you have a firearm in this place and we find out about it, your ass is getting busted to the ground and we will carry you off our park. Let's see, it's 9:06. What else do we have to get to? It's a quiet day for live chat today, so I don't know if we're going to have to spend a lot of time on that. So let's see if we can get some more out of here. Which, by the way, do remember that live chat is coming, so whatever you have to say and you want to get it on the air, get it out there. It's time. Red-haired bobblehead leaving the White House. Biden names first black openly gay press secretary to replace her. From Libby Cathy. After a year and a half at the podium, White House press secretary, red-haired bobblehead, is planning to leave the White House on May 13th, and her current deputy, Karine Jean-Pierre, will be her replacement, President Biden announced on Thursday. In a historic pick, Jean-Pierre will be the first black and openly gay person to hold the position of the White House press secretary. Oh, this'll be fun. Oh, this'll be fun, because you know that The View, that your MSDNC, where bobblehead is going to be, are going to be telling you how racist it is that Peter Doocy is asking questions of Karine Jean-Pierre. Psaki tweets, lots to say about how grateful I am to POTUS and FLOTUS and the Biden family for trusting me to serve as the press secretary, and plenty of time before my last day to share. But today is about KGP 46, and so a few thoughts on this remarkable woman. Who will soon be behind the podium every day. She will be the first black woman and the first openly LGBTQ plus IARR MGTLPXT person to serve as the White House press secretary. Representation matters, and she'll give a voice to many but also make many dream big about what's truly possible, and we will circle back. Karine will not only bring the experience and talent and integrity needed for this difficult job. Karine, Jill, don't you mean Karen? No? Oh. Now who is this black lady that's walking around here? She will continue to lead the way in communicating about the work of the Biden, the Harris-Biden administration on behalf of the American people. Jill and I have known and respect Karen for a long time, and she'll be a strong voice speaking for me and the administration, Biden said in the statement. Beaming with pride and telling reporters that she might cry, Bobblehead called her replacement up to the podium at the top of Thursday's briefing to formally introduce Jean-Pierre, whom she called a friend and a partner in truth. Oh, Jesus. Why is everything stupid? Why is everything stupid? She will give a voice to so many, Bobblehead said, noting her place in history, and show so many what's truly possible when you work hard and dream big. Oh shit, we can see it even. But Bobblehead also wanted to make clear Jean-Pierre's qualifications to the American people, detailing how she got her start in New York City politics before serving on several campaigns in the Obama-Biden admin, and is a longtime advisor to Biden and the First Lady. Let's see. Can she speak? Yes. Can she lie to reporters? Yes. Okay, those are her qualifications. And yes, by the way, I do include Sanders and McEnany in that too. That is the press secretary's job. Let's listen.
I just want to start by, I'm going to cry. Okay. Whew. I want to talk about my friend Karine. You've got to come up here. So I just want to take the opportunity to celebrate and congratulate my friend, my colleague, my partner in truth, Karine Jean-Pierre, the next White House press secretary. Now, many people in this room have known her for some time, but for anyone who does not know her, I want to provide a little bit of a primer for you, so settle in. First, as you all know, she will be the first Black woman, the first out LGBTQ plus person to serve in this role, which is amazing because representation matters, and she is going to, she will give a voice to so many and allow and show so many what is truly possible when you work hard and dream big, and that matters, and we should not, we should celebrate that. But I also want to make clear what all of her qualifications are, what a remarkable person is. She got her start in New York City politics. She comes to this job with decades of experience, even though she looks very young. We're both in our 20s. That's right. Having served in communications and political roles on many campaigns in the Obama-Biden administration and for both of former President Obama's campaigns. She's a longtime advisor to President Biden and Dr. Biden. They are partners, having served in senior roles.
Dr. Biden!
For him and for both of them back to when he was vice president, and she's worked for a number of advocacy organizations fighting for issues and justice for so many Americans. And I just want to say, I will have a lot to say about how grateful I am for for the trust the President and the First Lady and the whole team have given me and entrusted me in the last 15 months. But this day is about Karine, and I want to celebrate her. And on a personal note, I want to say that one of the first conversations we had when we both found out we were getting these jobs was about how we wanted to build a drama-free, on your best days, workplace where everybody worked hard, where we, on our best days, we're rebuilding trust with the public. And I'm just...
Okay, this sounds like a teeny bopper sleepover conversation. Like, oh, she came over and we got in our sleeping bags and we had a discussion about how we want to be drama-free for life. And women, you are in your 40s. Sorry to drop the ball on everybody who actually believed what she said when she said they were in her 20s. You're in your 40s. From the Associated Press. Biden taps first black woman, LGBTQIRRAMGT7 plus GLB minus divided sign White House press secretary. President Biden on Thursday named Karine Jean-Pierre to be the next White House press secretary, the first black woman, and the first openly LGBTQIARRGM plus minus divided sign / multiplied AAGL2 person to serve in the role. Incumbent red-haired bobblehead is set to leave the post next week. That's a review. We've talked about all this already. From the Daily Wire. Perhaps the department should not exist. Senate Republicans trade barbs with Energy Secretary Granholm. Oh, this will be fun. Video? Video or didn't happen? Fuck you, no video. Senate Republicans traded barbs with Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm at the meeting of Senate Energy Committee. At a committee hearing Thursday, Granholm sparred with Republican Wyoming Senator John Barrasso, Roger Marshall, and Utah Senator Mike Lee on the Biden admin's moves against oil and natural gas production. Oh, they queued it up for us.
Natural gas, number one, all of that. But we can also do the same thing with nuclear technology, advanced nuclear technology, and we have partnerships with countries, particularly the Eastern Bloc, and some others around the world who are really interested in developing that. The same is true with advanced technologies related to hydrogen.
Right. All those are pretty far on the horizon at this point. For instance, we were having a conversation who we're going to vote for today and who I'll be voting for as well, dealing with nuclear energy later on today. When she was sitting in the same chair and we were talking about this, and I asked, when's the next nuclear power plant going to be permitted in the United States? The hope was by the end of the decade. Now, I appreciate her honest answer on that, but when we talk about trying to add more nuclear in this and more other advanced, whether it be hydrogen, whatever it may be, we're decades away as we anticipate for the next 30 years or so. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out is this is a complicated formula. We all know where we're headed long term, but we all know it's not next year, the next year. It's a slow process to be able to get there. The anticipation is for the next 30 years at least, we're going to have increasing demands for oil, gas, coal. If we continue to allow infrastructure to be able to die off in the next 30 years, we're going to continue to have price spikes if we continue to discourage investment in those areas. You've read, I'm sure, the J.P. Morgan study to be able to look at the CapEx deficit in oil and gas, especially, just in those two.
All right, so that's going to be a little bit lengthy. We are up on the clock here. So at a committee hearing on Thursday, Granholm sparred with Barrasso, Marshall, and Mike Lee on the Biden admin's moves against oil and natural gas production. Granholm was first asked by Barrasso about comments made by the White House climate advisor Gina McCarthy that Biden was absolutely committed to not moving forward with additional drilling on public lands. Granholm responded by saying the Interior Department had opened up some land to new drilling leases. Does the president confirm what the climate advisor has said, or does he contradict what the climate advisor has said? Barrasso then asked. Granholm responded that Biden has called for more domestic oil supply and authorized more federal oil and gas leases to meet that supply. Well, then perhaps the climate advisor shouldn't contradict the president after a statement that he makes, Barrasso replied. Granholm then claimed the Biden admin has not held back domestic energy production. Okay. Citing a survey by the Dallas Federal Reserve in which just 6% of oil and gas, CEO said the government regulations are restraining growth. Barrasso lambasted that claim at the end of his line of questioning. In spite of what we've heard from the secretary, this admin has been actively discouraging and browbeating lending institutions to not loan money for this sort of thing, Barrasso noted, so it's very hard to produce energy when the admin has continued to put their finger against it. Later, Granholm had a tense exchange with Marshall. The last time you filled up your car with gasoline, do you remember what the price was? He asked. I drive an EV, Granholm said curtly. Some in the room audibly laughed. Do you know what the price of gas is in D.C.? Marshall continued. I know on average the price for gas of a gallon of gas across the country is $4.25. Marshall said the average price in D.C. is about $5 a gallon. That actually seems a little bit low to me. Because it was $3 something when I went down, because I cited in a Twitter post the other day when I put just a handful of gas in my truck to keep me going, that it was $34 to fill up my truck from the gas light coming on in June of 2020. And now I just spent $30 and got barely a quarter of a tank. To give me an idea of where we've come off of this and where the fuel has come from this. Now, with that being said, when I was in DC, I had noted the price at the station around the corner from where Stephen Ignoramus lived, and it was still at the high threes. I think it was $3.75 at the time. I have to imagine that gas price in DC would be over $7, given the sliding scale. Have your policies resulted in a decreasing supply of oil and gas? Marshall asked later in the exchange. No, sir, Granholm replied, instead blaming the increase in gas market on Biden admin's oil embargo. Since oil is traded on the global market, that's why the price has gone up. So you do not believe that your policies have impacted the supply of oil and gas in this country? Marshall asked again. Granholm then said no, said the energy industry CEOs agreed with her, citing the same Fed survey. Finally, Granholm had a heated exchange with Mike Lee. We have to provide American energy with a silver buckshot approach, not a silver bullet approach, Granholm said, in a response to a question from Lee about subsidies for intermittent energy sources like wind. We have to be investing in the production of clean energy here, and we have to be investing in the technology to get us those energy sources, including the decarbonization of the existing fossil fuel industry. Okay, decarbonization of the existing fossil fuel industry is not your mission, Lee cut in. Your mission is to provide an affordable and adequate and reliable source of energy at the lowest reasonable cost. If you're not determined to advance that mission, and in fact you're undertaking other efforts, then we have a problem. If the department doesn't want to pursue the statutory mandate for which it was created, perhaps the department should not exist. So, a lot of stuff there. And yes, there is the absolute aspect that, yes, they are trying to push for an energy policy that pushes us away from our fossil fuels, probably before we're ready. And I would not mind seeing an end out to the fossil fuels, going off of biofuels, renewables, etc., or going on to wind and solar when they're available. But we don't have the technology to do that. It's not there yet. I'd like to see it there. I think that'd be cool. To have a solar array that will both provide enough energy and a capacitor technology to hold the energy until we need it for when it's dark out or when it's cloudy, but also not have to worry about the land below the solar panel being fallow if something hits the damn thing and it breaks. Because the current technology, the current chemical soup that we're using to make these solar panels, if it gets into the soil, that land is fallow. That land is done for years to come. But I'm in the camp of, yes, I want to see this go. I want to see things get invested. I do want to see some use on that, partially because yes, I want to see more efficient, more clean methods to do so, and partially because the less fossil fuel, so they say, that we're using to put into to put into our energy, our electricity needs, the more we have left over to make gas prices for fun vehicles with V8s that go really fast, really, really cheap. I'm a car guy, and I'm a little bit greedy that way. From the Blaze. I think I'm going to do this Insider one. It'll be the last one. And then we gotta head out of here for the day. No, I want to do this one too. What are we at? 9:23? You know what? I'm going to hold on to the rest of these for Monday, but this one I want to do just because it's too fucking funny to skip over. So, from Fox 11 out of Los Angeles. Car owner who left Jeep at dealership gets sued after worker dies during oil change. By the way, nobody tell KTZed, but this is, I've got a double surprise stupidity, and this is one of them. The other one hasn't been on the show yet. From Charlie Langton and David Comer, online producer. So and they'll explain why this happened. But just to explain what we're seeing here. A car owner who was not at the time driving his vehicle was out of his vehicle, and I believe actually was not even on the premises. Because I think he dropped it off and went somewhere else to get like coffee or something, or go back to work or something. Not in the vehicle, not anywhere near the dealership, is now getting sued because a 19-year-old without a driver's license that couldn't drive a stick crashed into another mechanic and killed him. From Mount Clemens, Michigan, a man takes his car for an oil change and gets sued after his car was involved in a deadly accident, killing a worker while at the dealership. On March 13, 2020, the customer took his car to the Rochester Hills Chrysler Jeep Dodge dealership, and a young 19-year-old mechanic attempted to change the oil, but something terrible happened. He starts the car, removes his foot from the clutch. And you know what happens? The Jeep jumps and kills my client, said attorney David Femininio. The vehicle hit and killed employee Jeffrey Hawkins, a married 42-year-old father of 4 and a lifelong mechanic. He was an excellent man, Femininio said. The 2-year-old, who was about 1 at the time, at the death, he'll never know his father. Mr. Hawkins died instantly in the accident. Fox 2, did the 19-year-old know how to drive a stick? He didn't know how to drive a stick, and he had no license, the attorney said. Why did the dealership hire him? That's what I'd like to know, Feminino said. But hold on a minute. You must be suing the dealership. Well, we can't because of a legal standard that's involved, his lawyer said. That's because the accident happened at work and involved 2 employees, and you can't sue the boss in that situation. But attorney David Femininio claims the person responsible is the owner of the car. Fox 2, you're suing the owner of the car who's getting his oil changed who did nothing in this case. I have to do that, Femininio said. That's the law. Fox 2 reached out to the car owner's attorney, but he had no comment on pending litigation, other than to say that he's going to fight this case in the trial at the end of May. When you hand your car over to anybody, including the valet or the person at the service desk at your local dealership, you better be able to trust that person, the attorney said. So, and there is, let me see, because I think this explains it. Why a Jeep owner is sued after a dealership is killed during an oil change. 2 years later, the attorney for the man who died isn't suing the other worker of the dealership. He's suing the man who owns the Jeep. The man who was waiting in the lobby. The man who was just there for a routine oil change. So he was on the premises. So I apologize. As it turns out, this is the law, and this story is about to get complicated. Alright, we reviewed that. Why is the owner responsible? We can't sue the dealership because of a legal standard that's involved, said Femininio. So what is the legal standard? There are multiple factors at play here, and we're going to try to explain them as best as possible. In Michigan, an injured coworker cannot sue the boss because of the boss's negligence. According to Fox 2's Charlie Langton, in this case the boss is negligent because he hired someone who didn't know how to drive a standard and doesn't even have a license. So even though the boss was negligent in hiring somebody who shouldn't have been driving, the victim's family cannot hold the boss responsible. Instead, the remedy for the victim's family is to seek out workers' comp. Under workers' comp, Hawkins' family will receive wages and medical based on his dependents, how much he made at the time of his death. However, there are multiple wrinkles here because Hawkins' death involved a car. There's a statute known as the owner's liability. The statute means that the owner of the car is legally responsible. If the owner gave permission of the driver to drive the car, the owner is negligent. When the Jeep driver gave his keys over to the employee who was driving, he gave permission to the employee to drive the car. That makes the owner legally responsible and is automatically liable for the driver's negligence. According to Langton, it would be the same if you took your car to a restaurant with a valet and you handed your keys over. Under state law, the valet driver injures someone with your car, you are responsible. The law is called vicarious liability. It means the owner is automatically liable for the negligence of the driver. That sounds like a completely fucked up situation. And that sounds like this Jeep dealership should be just about out of fucking business. The lawsuit is for $15 million. Separately from the lawsuit, the owner of the Jeep has some options too. He can and has sued the dealership for indemnity. Indemnity means that if the judge rules against the car owner, the dealership would pay the balance. In that separate lawsuit, the judge has ruled the dealership must provide indemnity for the Jeep owner, but that is tricky. Now the dealership has been ordered to provide indemnity. The attorney for the dealership is representing the Jeep owner in the trial. The dealership is going to appeal the indemnity ruling. If the Michigan Court of Appeals rules that the judge's decision on indemnity was correct, the Jeep owner will be responsible for the financial paid out to the family if the judge rules in favor of the Hawkins family. So that sounds like a whole mess of complicated problems that a stupid state law has put into place, because the driver and the dealership should both be on the fucking hook for this. Not the owner of the vehicle. Moral of the story: don't have a valet or a dealership drive your vehicle in Michigan. Because that kind of sounds to me like there's a problem here. Alright, it's 9:30. Let's get into the live chat here. I know it's going to come up. Yelchin, by the way, Quest Fanning. Anton Yelchin. Alright, so on the end of Friday, we check in with the live chat here, which has been a little bit slow today. So it means I'm going to have to make a better program and get some more of you people in here, because we want this to be busy. We want to not be able to see who's chatting in the live chat here. But before we do, as promised, I always write down the names of the people who chatted in the live chat and say, hey, thank you for what you did through the week. And we had a busy week this week, by the way. On Monday, we had Ron Helton, Quest Fanning, Blind Fear, Spartan 0000 Superior, who launched a very, very deep and detailed discussion in the Discord. A couple of them, actually. If you guys aren't in the Discord and chatting in the Discord, you guys are missing out. Discord is fun. Sully, Blue, Chilaga 1984, A Gaines P, KTZed, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru, and Arvold 24, Tuesday, get us our new friend, Tom Beiris. Thank you to whoever was working with Tom Beiris, too, by the way, for not banning and instead just muting. And thank you, by the way, to Arvold for unbanning Nasty Natty 2. I do have to sit down and talk with McLeod about that. Not that I don't appreciate the fact that she did step in, but we don't ban around here unless there's a dox. We mute, we don't ban. I ban. Unless there's a dox. That's the reason you guys still have ban powers, because, you know, if somebody's personal details are coming out there, that person is gone and does not get an appeal. Apparently that dude was also using the whisper function to go talk to our very own Random Randy. We also had Random Randy, Randy Crush Saga, Quest Fanning, Set of a Cantus Bear, Ron Helton was here, Chilaga 1984, Arvold, Vampire Hunter D, and Sully Blue. Wednesday brought us Randy Crush Saga, Sully Blue, Ron Helton, Quest Fanning, Chilaga 1984, Set of a Cantus Bear, Audio Jack, Arvold, and Frank Frijoles. Audio Jack, that's I think a new name this week, so thank you for that. Yesterday was Ron Helton, Quest Fanning, Randy Crush Saga, Chilaga 1984, MK Ultra, Nephilim Ninja of Nibiru, Arvolt 24, Cabatox, I think that's a new name over here as well, and Papa Palpatine from one of the other Discord servers that I chat in, but not particularly mine. Although Papa Palpatine is welcome in mine, and I hope he comes in and joins there as well. Today, Ron Helton with the Come On Man sticker. Might have to go on DLive and steal that one. And the AOC sticker. Quest Fanning is here. Good morning. Chilaga, Morning Home Dogs, MK Ultra, happy Friday. Arvolt is lurking. Which I see that he's saying morning too to everybody too, because I don't know if the stickers count as chat messages on the chat bot, because there are some times where I look through what's picked up by RestreamBot when I go to make this list here. And I see that Arvolt has at least left the lurking sticker in the chat, but he doesn't show up there. So I don't know if stickers actually pop up. So it looks like he has remedied that. Benning saying good morning to everybody. MK says, is it the Federal Reserve's job to have those statistics? Yes. Anthony Adavis II, or Anthony A. Davis, says, they say the Roe versus Wade issue is a distraction for the economy, as you suggested, and also the Pfizer drop. I have the Pfizer drop on my tabs to go and read. I have not been able to independently verify if this is the real Pfizer drop. It is 98 pages. I'd like to go through it and see what's in it. I know other people already have, but I also know how Google likes to suppress things that they don't like and put false flags up in their place as well, or let some of the crazy conspiracy theories stuff gets up there so they can laugh at you and say, hey, you read conspiracy theorist stuff. So I'm going to read this and I'm going to independently verify it. Jopper9 is here if you're on Twitter. Meme Streets 3. Quest Fanning says her mom was a brave child. MK says, am I a bad person for laughing when she said I'm the product of rape? Not sure, it'll depend on intent, I think. Ron says, this video clip is a non-issue. These types of arguments can be found all over. In other words, it's a waste of time to watch it. MK says, got a clinic down the street, literally right next to a Section 8 apartment complex. Yeah, it's about... it's across from a school in Kenosha. It's actually across from the tech school in Madison on the east side. I think there's one on the west side too. Ron is sick of the abortion issue. Yeah, we'll be talking about it on Monday. I hope we don't talk about it on Monday morning, but we'll definitely be talking about it on Monday night, because that's going to be, I think, the majority of our show Monday night. Fanning says, I bet it would go down a lot if the government stopped incentivizing and enforcing by over-incarceration the destruction of the black family. Family of color, I'm sorry. Randy Crush Saga is here. MK, Mouth of Sauron. Shalaga says, sadness. What about our sadness for the last 50 years? Madcom Marcus here and calls it bullshit. Quest Fanning says, deregulation and incentives actually improve the environment. Kind of like what Norway did to incentivize the EV translation. Electric vehicles are tax-free. Well, taxation is theft, so all vehicles should be tax-free. It worked. There are more EVs on Norwegian roads as of 2020 than internal combustion vehicles. There's a second part to that story, and we actually looked this up, by the way. My cousin and I, this was back in 2015, we were having a discussion about the fact that so few people own a vehicle and how they still get around and use public transit in European countries. And they cited, the person who was making that claim cited Norway, saying, well, you don't need vehicles because there's so much out there. Nobody even wants to own a vehicle in Norway. And then we looked and found out that there's almost 100% tax on private owned vehicles in Norway. So the cost of the car has doubled. So they're actively, and this is 2015 before EVs were really big, they were actively disincentivizing people from owning a vehicle at all. And with a price tag like that, when you go to the EV translation, in most cases, your EV is going to cost sometimes half of what your gas vehicle can. Gaines says, according to a new documentary by Oprah, healthcare is also racist. Full disclosure, I haven't watched it, only seen the promo. I didn't even know it existed, so you're miles ahead of me. It's a little bit loud. Let me draw that back just a little bit. Quest Fanning says, spark, meaning people with no self-control are not responsible for themselves. Fanning says, what if items Disney doesn't like is baby in the womb? Well, then I guess they can prohibit pregnant women from going to Disney. I think that would be stupid, but as a private business owner, that is their right. A. Gaines says, I wear my gun everywhere, roll tide. Fanning says, yes, we've had gun control in New York City for 100 years and they don't work. What if the sign is on a government building? What if you need to do business there? Well, then you don't carry it inside. I'm actually a big stickler on this and for private property rights. The owner of the business, including the government, by the way, should be able to determine whether or not what you can carry in there. I know, like, the State House in Boston has a metal detector. I got popped with a pocket knife in the State House in Boston. They gave it back afterwards, but no, they have the ability to say what you can and can't carry in there. Now, if they determine the entire city to be private property and then try to do that, then we're going to have problems. But that's going to be a bigger problem than just the idea of, oh, well, they want to crack down on guns. Because if the entire city gets bought up as government property, there's going to be a big reckoning coming out of the government. And to the government, too, by the way. Quest Fanning says, historic pick, tokenism equals box checker. Arvolt has dropped in long enough to say hi for the Friday serotonin. Welcome, Arvolt. Gaines says, I refuse to be a soft target and will defend myself and those I love with my life. Fanning says, walking on the fucking moon. Then you can call it historic. A gay black woman spinning lies isn't historic. Check the salon. Oof. Maybe I shouldn't have read that one out loud. Gaines says, is that Corn Pop's sister? She's a bad dude. Quest says, I've got your truth right here in my pants, biatch. Quest Fanning says, let's be friends. Yeah, that was looking like that was going in a direction that I was really curious about when they were up on the podium together. I thought about whether or not I should say something about that, but I'm like, man. Fanning says, I thought Peppermint Patty was out too. No, she's married with kids, apparently. BRFs. As opposed to RBFs. BFFs. Quest Fanning says, I can't take credit for that one, Gaines. Someone referred to her that as about a month ago, an elected official. Yeah, that was Ted Cruz, but that was going around a lot longer than Ted Cruz. Styx said that back last year already. But I'll keep using it. Gaines says, when their sexuality is their personality and their resume, you know they're shallow and probably dead inside. Quest Fanning is making air horns with CapEx. Fanning says, fluctuations on price don't change evenly. California gas is always expensive, but recently it's skyrocketed. Here in New York City, it's just a little over average. It says Norway's hydroelectric is sustainable and fluctuates less than solar and wind, and there are trade-offs to like to fish, but newer tech is better for them. Nuclear is expensive, but that's kind of chicken and egg. The restrictions have made development slow. Randy says, once solid-state batteries become more prevalent, solar could actually be useful. And I'd like to see that, honestly. We need to triple our electric production to convert to EVs, probably, and still figure out the range thing. Randy says, thank you. I keep trying to explain to people how poisonous solar panels are. Randy says, the law in California requires solar panels on every new building. Is that why they have rolling blackouts? Possibly. Vampire Hunter D is here. In Norway, the incentives for building green take the whole life cycle into account, including construction and demolition. Randy says, the panels create too much energy for the grid during peak production. Solar panels are a problem when they work and useless when they don't. Vampire Hunter D says owner can countersue. Well, that would be the indemnity, but I don't know how well that's going to go. Either way, F for the kid and F for the driver too. Mr. Hawkins was an idiot. Did you know Mr. Hawkins? Well, apparently he, according to the article, the fluff piece, whatever it was that was written here, he was a lead top mechanic. He was just standing in front of a vehicle that somebody didn't know how to use. I think maybe he was going up to, well, maybe if he was on the oil pits at 42, maybe he was an idiot. I have no idea. I just know he wasn't in the car. Femininio, yes, that is the lawyer's unfortunate name, is Femininio. Fanning says the young actor who played Chekhov in the newer Star Trek films got crushed by his parked Jeep when it had a handbrake failure. Yes, it was Anton. You know, I just looked it up again. Yelchin. Anton Yelchin. And before that, Walter Koenig. What do you think would happen if the brand simply cuts off the dealership for its impact on its reputation? That would be interesting to see, especially if they're refusing responsibility or putting one of their customers on the line like that. That actually would be an interesting note to go with it. Randy says the judge won't rule in favor of the Hawkins family. Most of the frivolous lawsuits end up going nowhere. Actually, no, that's not a frivolous lawsuit. Somebody died, dude. Close fanning. Tom Beerus. Randy says, I forgot to update. Poor Tom hasn't responded to the undeniable links that prove my fake news statements. Fanning says, I time out at Tom. I figured he'd still talk shit to me, but he just up and disappeared. Yeah, we've seen more of Frank Frijoles lately. MK was listening all week. Sometimes I'm too busy listening to chat, I think. Yeah, that happens. Quest says, I should get on the Discord and Gilded more often. Quest says, just say lurking. You're in. Randy says, it was also a distraction from Schwab signing a deal between WEF and the UN with the express goal of speaking up the agenda in 2032. I think it's speeding up the 2030 timeline. Need the spring to hit. Lots of canceled sporting events this spring. Yeah, I can feel the chill in the air actually again here, and I left windows open. Because it was like 60 when I went to bed last night. Quest says, April showers bring May flowers. Expect some pilgrims. Chilaga's heading to California next week. Pray for Chilaga. It's going to be colder in Cali than in Illinois. I said that to Quest the other day about Norwood. $120,000 for a V6 Camaro. Gaines says the only color that matters in healthcare is green. Harpo is a hypocrite and her rich ass will have a long and healthy life. And I hope she does. I had to leave my umbrella during jury duty. No, Oprah's going to choke on a sandwich like Mama Cass. Plus says, can you tell I watched a show about Norway? Vampire Hunter says, I don't know, I drive a bicycle. Chillax says, I heard Lilyhammer was a good show, dude from Sopranos. I've never seen Sopranos. Fanning says, people get caught and harassed about baby formula, not actual weapons, Randy. That thanks to the TSA. Walter is still with us. Well, maybe Walter can go play Chekhov then in the next J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie. Walter Koenig. Anton Yelchin was awesome in everything, and that was sad. I know nothing about Anton Yelchin, actually. Did we talk about the crazy feminist racist tweet yet? Apparently not. Oh, yeah, no, I did that yesterday. I did talk about that yesterday. Yeah, she deleted her account again. McLeod says, Mama Cass died of a heart attack, but yeah, the sandwich myth prevails. Also, the E Street Band. Banning says, they killed off the character in honor of Anton. He was in the first episode of Criminal Minds, I remember that. Vampire Hunter says, Mama Cass didn't choke on a ham sandwich. She died in a brawl over the ham sandwich. No? Maybe. I just remember, what the fuck was it? Austin Powers. People that I knew that have died. Jimi Hendrix. Drugs. Janis Joplin. Alcohol. Mama Cass. Ham sandwich. All right. I think we're done. Well, I know we're done because it's 10 to 10 and I got to get the hell out of here. So I know we're done. Duty calls, guys. Where's my outro music? I gotta throw boots on. So, well, thanks for a good week, everybody. Lots of live chat, lots of stuff. Everybody rolling in at the end, unfortunately, but it's how it happens sometimes, especially when you do early morning streaming in the US. So, we will be back here on Monday for more contemporary. I actually we might do some Fallout 4 this weekend because we got to do something. We got to wind down after all this, and I want to play some more Fallout 4 because I haven't had a break in weeks. Even, yes, while spending time with family, which is fun and cool, which is what I did last weekend. Harvey, by the way, I have pictures for you. I'll send them to you in Discord. Even when you're having fun with family, I mean, that's still 8 hours of drive that's out there, and, you know, you're paying attention to the road, and it's still fun, but still kind of, and, well, paying for the gas, too. So, yeah, let's do that sometime. Let's sit here tomorrow, I think, 5:30. Well, we'll see. I do have to probably work late a little bit tomorrow, but that's fine. We'll be here at some point here, going and doing some video games, so come back and join us here. Otherwise, Monday for more contemporary, and Monday for KTZed Redemption at 5:30 Central Time on Monday afternoon. So come back and join us for that. We will go along with the saga of KTZed's house and see if her air conditioning actually got fixed. So come and join us for that. Come and join us for more news, more commentary, and see how many times KTZed's laptop restarts. And we'll be back here for that. I'd love to see you next time here. Love to join you guys. And, well, take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. Take care.